perfect timing because the clock just struck 4 o'clock. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the meeting of the Placer LAFCO Commission together. This is a special meeting, Wednesday, December 4th, and it is now 4 p.m. And I will ask Jenny, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And Amy, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Alpine?
Here.
Commissioner Burris? Absent. Commissioner Carlskint? Commissioner Landon?
Here.
Commissioner Rohan? Here. Alternate Commissioner Bass? Absent. Alternate Commissioner Friedman?
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Holmes? Absent. Alternate Commissioner Knisely?
Here.
Alternate Commissioner Spriggs? Here. And Chair Gustafson? Here. And you have a quorum. I need to ask a few questions for Josh. Josh, are you using your good cause exception?
Yes.
Is there anyone in the room over 18 with you?
No.
Okay. And just a reminder, keep your camera and video on it, or your video and your microphone on at all times.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. And welcome, everyone. Thanks for being here today. And because we do have some commissioners traveling for their work jobs and other responsibilities, they are online today, but I think you can see them all. So, Michelle, I'll go to changes for the agenda. Are there any changes you recommend?
No changes from staff, Chair.
Okay. Commissioners, are there any changes? Then I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? Motion carries. The agenda's approved. And now we'll go to public comments. This is an opportunity for any of you to address us on any items that are not on today's agenda. We'd love to hear from you for not to exceed 3 minutes. So are there any individuals here who'd like to address the commission on items not on today's agenda? I'm not seeing any in the room. Do we have any online? If you're online, raise your hand if you have an item that is not on today's agenda. Okay, we're not seeing any hands, so we'll close the public comment period and we'll move to item number 5 on our agenda, which is our public hearing item. This is LAFCO project number 2024-02, Village 5A annexation to the city of Lincoln. So I will start with our executive officer.
Thank you, Chair. Hello, Commissioners. I wanted to introduce Cassandra Gale. I believe you met her through Zoom, but this is her first meeting with us in person. Cassandra Gale is with Rincon. Rincon was hired to provide staff services to LAFCO mostly for this project, but as well as others. And I believe that's been since May or June of this year, and so she's been working on this project for several months. She, as I mentioned, is the project manager for the project and will take you through the analysis and the staff recommendation and the alternatives for the proposal.
Thank you, Executive Officer Michelle, and good afternoon, Chair Gustafson, commissioners, and members of the public here in the chambers today, as well as online. As mentioned, my name is Cassandra Gale with Rincon Consultants, and I'm here today to present to you the LAFCO project number 2024-02 for the Village 5A annexation to the city of Lincoln. So my presentation today will cover 5 key topics. We'll start with a brief overview of the Village 5A annexation proposal. Moving on to a bit of background, focusing on where we've been on the previous annexation, and going over what has changed for the current proposal. We'll also touch on the analysis of the proposal's compliance with relevant laws and its alignment with LAFCO policies. And we'll give an overview of public input and protest procedures, and finally go over staff's recommendation and alternatives available for the commission's action. So, as many of us are familiar, the Village 5A annexation proposes to bring 2,721.42 acres of unincorporated land into the City of Lincoln's jurisdiction. The project aims to enable the development of the Village 5A specific plan, which includes residential, commercial, and mixed-use areas, preserves over 800 acres of parks, recreation, and open space, and also would extend municipal services such as fire protection, law enforcement, water, and wastewater infrastructure to the area. Key actions that we'll discuss today include the change of organization, so the annexation to the City of Lincoln. We'll go over adoption of CEQA findings for environmental compliance and potential for waiver of protest hearing. So the proposed annexation area is located within the city's sphere of influence, directly west of the city's jurisdictional boundaries and south of Nicholas Road. So let's go back in time a little bit. In 2023, the City of Lincoln proposed annexing villages 5 and 7B. That application was terminated due to public opposition, with over 50% of registered voters in the area filing protest. In June, your commission waived the 1-year waiting period under Government Code 57090 and accepted the current application for processing. The current proposal focuses on a smaller area. The areas of the specific plan not included is this area, about 1,000 acres to the west and below Nicholas Road, and then also excludes Island B over here in the orange. So the orange is the original proposal, and the blue is the current smaller area. Government Code 5668 directs the commission to consider 17 factors when considering a change of organization. Of that analysis that is included in your packet today, I am going to highlight just a few items, not all 17, that inform staff's recommendation on the proposal. So the proposal today does propose to create 2 unincorporated islands. Those islands are the Island A, about 315 acre area, and Island B, about 682 acres below Highway 65. Unincorporated islands are discouraged under Government Code 56744, which in summary states that annexations should not create isolated areas unless certain findings are made. Specifically, the findings are that LAFCO must determine that excluding those areas would be detrimental to the orderly development of the community, and or the islands cannot reasonably be annexed to another city or incorporated as a new city. Through our review of these factors, we do recommend including islands A and B in the annexation area for several reasons. Unincorporated islands can cause significant challenges, including reliance on fragmented county services that do not have consistency with city standards, leading to potential delays in critical services or a delayed require for properties to annex to receive services in the future. Those areas remain outside of the city's planning process, which can complicate efforts to implement cohesive infrastructure development and long-term community growth. So including those areas in the annexation would support better service delivery, streamlined governance, and more effective growth management looking several years ahead. So to address those issues, staff has included in our recommendation to modify the boundary to include both islands. And to do so, the commission would also need to amend the proposal to include a concurrent detachment from County Service Area 28. Taking a sidestep for a moment to cover California Environmental Quality Act compliance, the proposal does comply with CEQA. City of Lincoln's environmental impact report for the specific plan area covers the current proposal area, and it's been determined that a supplemental EIR is not required. So part of our recommendation today will also include that Placer LAFCO, as a responsible agency, adopts the City of Lincoln's determined findings under CEQA. Under Government Code 56663, landowners and registered voters in the affected area can submit written protests during the public hearing. If no opposition is received, the commission may waive the protest hearing. If opposition is filed during the hearing, then staff recommends delegating the protest hearing abilities to the executive officer for further proceedings. So far, several comments have been received in both support and opposition to the project, though to our knowledge, none of those have been from landowners or registered voters that are within the proposed annexation area currently. I'm going to read staff's full recommendation, so bear with me for just a moment. So based on that analysis, staff recommends adopting the proposed resolution, conditionally approving the annexation proposal with modifications, including expanding the proposed affected territory to include islands A and B. Under the proposed resolution, prior to recordation of their certificate of completion, the city would be required to amend the map and the geographic description to comply with LAFCO and the State Board of Equalization requirements. So that would be a condition of approval. Additionally, staff recommends that the commission amend the proposal to include the concurrent detachment of the affected territory from the jurisdictional boundaries of Placer County, County Service Area 28. And we also recommend that commission adopt the city's statement of overriding considerations and mitigation monitoring and reporting program from the city's certified environmental impact report for the Village 5 specific plan. And lastly, pursuant to Government Code 56663, staff recommends that the commission waive protest proceedings if no written opposition is received. Now, that is staff's recommendation based on government code and interpretation of the government code requirements. The commission does have 3 alternative options available today. The first option, alternative 1, would be to approve the proposal as submitted. This would require making the findings for approving a change of organization that creates 2 unincorporated islands. Alternative 2 would be to continue the item to a future meeting. And option 3, alternative 3, would be to deny the proposal in full. So that concludes my presentation. Thank you for your attention. I and Executive Officer Michelle are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And before we go to questions, I was going to, on page 11 of our packet are the procedures for consideration, and start with any commissioner disclosures for any meetings that you've had.
No.
Okay, any disclosures to be made? Okay, then we'll go to, we've already heard the oral presentation, and now I will go to any questions the commissioners have. Are there any points of clarification or questions for staff or the consultant?
Not on my part.
Online? Yes.
Actually, I just want to ask you, you referred to page 11. Oh, I see. I'm sorry. It's a red 11. I'm looking at page 9 of 9. Sorry.
Yeah,
never mind.
there's a number of
Thought I was
different
missing
page
some
numbers in our
pages.
packet.
Okay.
I was just following those procedures for consideration that are listed. Okay,
Chair Gustafson, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Landon.
Sorry, it's not a question, but I did want to mention, I know there was a section that spoke to sewer in here and how the requirement to hook up to sewer if the septic system were to fail, or if there was, I think it's health and safety issues with the septic system. And so I did want to just mention that I know one supervisor in particular is working on relaxing that rule to align with the state. I think the state's requirement is 200 feet and the county is 300 feet. from the property line. The state's requirement is 200 feet from the structure. And so I think that is supposed to come to the board hopefully early next year, and then it would be submitted to the state. So I just wanted to make you aware that there is a process that right now may end up relaxing that requirement a little bit. So it wouldn't be the 300 feet. Hopefully it would get to the 200 feet.
And I think it's a big differentiation, Supervisor Landon, to go to 200 feet from the structure versus
Yeah.
300 feet from the line. Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, Cherry.
Thank you. I do have a question. I think this is the right time to bring it up as it relates to the street maintenance piece of this. Is there another time that I should bring up that question in the course of this meeting? Right now is the time. Okay. So so it's attachment K. As I was going through that, so I really appreciate this project. I live in Lincoln, as I think most everyone knows, for better or worse. I also serve as the alternate member here, but live also in Lincoln. I love living in Lincoln. I understand that we, with the police and the fire, how this actually really benefits existing residents, being able to get the additional stations through this. As you all know, I was very involved with Measure B as it relates to transportation and just tax measures in general. And I think it's really lovely that we're able to get the police and fire station through this, because voters don't want to tax themselves to pay for those things. So as I was going through this on attachment K, the street maintenance part, I do have a question, because I get before the annexation, but then after the annexation, right? And this might be a question for actually Sean, I'm not sure, but how that would be funded in terms of street maintenance, right? I bring up Measure B because we know in Measure B there's going to be $13 million essentially on return to the three cities on a formula basis to help pay for these things. And so in here it says the city's response is that the road maintenance would be funded through gas tax and grant funding. We also know PCTPA has been pretty specific about the fact that gas tax funding will be will end essentially in a decade. So I would like to learn more about that to see if there's any, how that ends up happening within this proposal, to make sure that the funding is there for these streets. Because obviously as they come in, right, we have to plan for all of these things. So whomever is the right person to answer that question, I would appreciate it.
So I think that's a question for the city. I don't know if you would prefer the city answer now or wait until after their presentation. And I believe, just to get everyone on the same page, it's page 305, is that correct?
Correct,
Of the
thank you.
packet?
Yeah, thanks.
We can ask the city now or wait until after their presentation.
I will let Sean decide what he wants to do.
Hello? Oh, hi. Good evening. Sean Scully, City Manager at Lincoln. So thanks for the question. We get this question a lot, actually, in various other areas of development in Lincoln. Traffic seems to be roads always seems to be the sort of hottest topic. So a couple things. Let's delineate between facilities and maintenance. Any development that occurs in Lincoln that is going to impact our roadways, the developer is required to upgrade those roadways to handle the loads of traffic that are foreseen for that project. So I gave an example before this meeting to someone that if you take where you live, Sherry, and Lincoln Crossings. Now, Lincoln Crossings, before it was a thing, I think it's safe to say that it was not the road network that it is today. When that project was built, those various developers paid for and installed, in many cases, all of the road improvements that surround that area, not even including just within Lincoln Crossings. If we find impact in intersections that are down the road that are collector areas and it requires a new signal, for example, or some other roadway, an expansion typically of a roadway, they fund that because the cities, unless this changes, which I tend to doubt, taxpayers are typically not happy with the idea of subsidizing someone else's development, so they pay that way. The maintenance component, I have two thoughts about that. First of all, there's a lot of thoughts about what gas tax will look like in 10 years, and I think the truth about it is we really don't know. What's clear is that depending on what happens in California and nationally with policy related to fossil fuel vehicles, you will likely see a reduction in that. California, or Sacramento rather, has had a number of discussions in a number of years, and nothing has been sorted yet, but how do we fix that issue when some of your vehicles, and maybe most of your vehicles at some point, are not using the pumps? And that's a reckoning that's going to happen statewide, literally in every community. But to answer the question about setting aside gas tax, because I'll tell you right now, we don't receive enough now, and even if it tripled, we wouldn't receive enough to deal with our 250 lane miles of maintenance responsibilities. Well, the way we deal with it now, and it will be dealt with in Village 5 the same way, is that each new development that comes into Lincoln goes into a community facilities district that funds the maintenance of their facilities within their subdivision. So that's everything from lights and landscaping, and irrigation, to, yes, roads and potholes and resurfacing. And so our gas tax take, I think I'm safe to say that it will not be employed in Village 5 because it wouldn't do much in Village 5. Village 5 itself will have to pay for, or those new residents rather, will have to pay for a proportionate share of that maintenance moving forward.
Thanks.
Good? Okay.
Thank you. Are there any other commissioner questions or comments? I'm not seeing from my colleagues. I did want to make one point. I know we've received a fair amount of correspondence and concern that somehow the city had requested that the islands be placed back into the recommendation. That is not the case. What is the case is that our executive officer, following LAFCO procedures, put that as her recommendation to this commission. It's totally on us to consider the alternatives. So I want to make sure that that's clear to any public comments that we've received, and clarify that for you, that it was not the city's request, it was what our executive officer felt was prudent to recommend to the commission for our deliberations today. And so with that, Michelle, did you have anything else? Otherwise, did you want me to go to the city first and the applicant?
Right, nothing further from staff, Chair.
Okay, then,
Chair Gustafson, may I make a clarification?
yes.
It follows up what the comment you just made. And Michelle can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is accurate. The commission did receive an objection from a resident of one of the islands to the islands being included in the annexation. So therefore, if the commission goes with staff's recommendation and includes the islands in the annexation area, then the commission would not be able to waive protest hearings. I just wanted to make that clarification.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. I appreciate that. Okay, then we'll look to our applicant on this.
Hi, good evening. Sean, City of Lincoln. My assistant city manager, Anita Racker, is going to give this presentation. She's been the lead on this project for the last year, essentially, and she's a better speaker anyway. So what I will say, just to kind of lead her in, is just to address one quick thing. From the city staff's perspective, we understand that the LAFCO staff and executive director have rules and government codes that they base their recommendation on, and totally understand that. Just to be clear, just from our perspective, not based in code, just based on our city's philosophy, we are not interested in a project that includes the two islands at when it's been made very clear, last protest proceeding and even prior to that, that those residents that are in that area are not interested at this time in annexing into the city of Lincoln. And so what you're seeing before you this evening in the Village 5A is our best attempt at trying to satisfy that request while also trying to figure out a way to move forward with a project that's particularly important to Lincoln's future. And so Nita will talk a little bit about that, and I'll hand it to her.
Good afternoon. Assistant City Manager Nita Racker for the City of Lincoln. So we do have a brief presentation, and I will say that a lot of it is duplicated in your packet, so I'm not going to belabor each one of these slides. But we'll speed through this. So as Cassandra noted, and I did want to take just a brief moment to thank Cassandra with Rincon and also thank the Executive Director, Michelle, for helping guide us through this application process. You know, every LAFCO application, they're challenging. There is no cookie cutter, there is no cut and dry to an application, and it is helpful for the applicant, in this case the city, to be able to work with an executive director who is willing to guide us through that process. So just briefly, as we noted already, the annexation area of this project for Village 5A. There have been several milestones in this project, as Sean noted in the beginning, that we were here a year ago trying to move forward with an application period that did include the area for Island B. However, as a result of the protest of the homeowners in that area, that did not proceed. And so we came back again before the commission with this revised application. As you have in your packet already, an example of the land use plan, noting that there is a mixed use of residential and commercial within this area, including schools and safety facilities. And that the boundary does respect the specific land where possible, that this does help advance the development of the 65 core. I did promise I was going to make this quick, remember? And just a brief reminder of the area is 2,700 acres with approximately 3.2 million square feet of commercial. The commercial is critically important for the City of Lincoln. I believe everyone on this commission knows that the City of Lincoln does not currently have enough commercial core, enough commercial development in order to help sustain the growth of the city. Without this commercial development, we are impacted by a limited amount of sales tax dollars, and even with this additional commercial development, we're still looking to supplement that sales tax revenue. And it does also include 3 schools and 1 fire station, which will benefit not just the residents of this area, but all the residents of the city. So again, to talk about those benefits, this helps implement the city's general plan. It's a master planned, balanced community, that it does have a significant area of open space and trails, as is the city's policy. It includes a regional sports park. It includes a variety of housing types. There's high density, there's medium density. So that enables us to allow citizens from all income levels an opportunity to live in an area where they want to live. And as I stated earlier, that this is a very important project, not just to us, but to other agencies. So for example, and especially with the failure of Measure B, that the Tier 1 SPARTA fees paid through this program, this application, are going to be critically important, that we are now faced with having to utilize those SPARTA fees along with leveraging grant funds in order to do any sort of improvements to Highway 65. So just the failure of that measure makes this project even that much more important. Additionally, we're looking to provide additional school locations, not just to benefit the growth of this area, but to benefit our existing students. That the schools are reaching their capacity much quicker than the school district had planned. And so without these additional school sites, that we're in jeopardy of having to put students in places even further away from their homes, impacting their abilities to have adequate time with their families, adequate access to sport facilities, and things of that sort. And of course, then the habitat conservation. So as far as the timing, I feel like we've been doing this for a while now, but we did come back and have gone through the annexation for the consideration last year. But once this is approved, what we'll be looking forward to is a groundbreaking in 2025 for the phase 1 infrastructure. and then for the first homes to be constructed in 2027. So the developer is primed and ready to go. Once this application is approved, I swear that they're sitting back there with their shovels and their bulldozers ready to get started. And I just want to reiterate that our conclusions, that we are requesting alternative one, which is the application as submitted, which it includes the 2 islands. We are asking this commission to make the findings that would allow the creation of those 2 islands. If the commission feels, for whatever reason, that is not able to make those findings, then we are asking for alternate 3, which is a denial of this proposal entirely. Because as we are all aware, if the commission were to move forward with approving an application that include the islands, that it would not be successful, that there would be a protest to those inclusions, and that the application and the annexation would fail, delaying the city further, delaying the developer further, delaying the community further. And so again, we are asking for alternative 1 or alternative 3, a straight denial. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Nita. Any questions for Nita?
I don't have any right now.
Supervisor Landon, Commissioner Alpine or Friedman online, any questions?
No questions.
Thank you.
It was a very good, short presentation.
Very.
And the packet was very extensive.
The packet was well done. Okay. Michelle, were there any further comments, or you want me to go to public?
No comments from staff, Chair.
Okay, then at this time, we are going to open up the public hearing on this item. We'll invite you up to the podium if you'd like to comment to the commissioners.
Good afternoon, Commission. How are you? Holly Andriotta, the current Mayor Pro Tem, incoming Mayor of the City of Lincoln. I appreciate all your months of hard work on this. This has been a long haul. But I just want to make a comment that personally, I am actually really frustrated and appalled that staff would even recommend that you approve this, including the 2 islands. What was the whole purpose of the protest vote last year? All of the work that went into it, the residents speaking their mind, taking a legal vote, and now you are asked to just ignore that. I understand that LAFCO doesn't like islands. It's a thing, right? I get it. But I also really hate government overreach, and I really hate when the government tramples on people's rights and their personal property. These people have said for years they don't want to be annexed. They have fought and fought and fought, and I was against this until the protest vote happened and we could secure their boundaries. We don't want to be included until we decide. And I thought, okay, it's all done, it's settled, we can move forward with this project. And I also want to say that I feel very frustrated that it's taken my staff quadruple the amount of work to get this done because of lack of communication. And I feel personal inclinations have been put into this project, and I don't think that's appropriate. So I'm asking you to please do what Nita asked, approve this with the islands or don't approve it at all. Thank you.
Thank you. Other public commenters?
Hi, I'm Susan Wechter. I reside in the island that's known as the Rockwell community. And again, I've said this a lot, but I know it's not actually a tax, but if we were to be annexed and be part of a community funding district, to me it does feel like taxation without representation over the years of not being able to vote for city council, opposing this from, I don't know, 2017 on. The other thing is that I do have concerns about is even the waiving of the wait period after the last protest. I'm concerned that, you know, you're talking about waiving it again, so I would definitely say if it's annexed and if you're following staff guidelines and annexing the area, definitely need to have a protest hearing on this in order for the public. I'm not convinced that it considered detrimental to public interest if it wasn't annexed. So the waiving of it was a concern, but that's about all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Well, I know you didn't all come for the entertainment tonight, because we don't sing or dance very well, so please come on up.
Mine's short. My name's Sharon Ross McDaniel. My father bought the 80 acres on Nicholas Road 50 years ago, and he did not buy it to allow people to change what he created. We've had a farming business for years there, and we continue to have a farming business there. My daughter has moved onto the property as well, and she is a third-generation farmer, and I'm asking you to listen to what was promised. And they promised a Heritage Act for businesses and farms on Nicholas Road community, and it's being ignored and ignored. My property is right on Nicholas Road, and it is where you plan to put your industrial sewer line right through my front yard. I'm on well, I'm on septic, and your sewer line would take both those away from me, even if you didn't make a protest or an amendment of how far from a building. You're changing my way of life, and it's not fair. I agree the way that this agenda was submitted this time was such a bait and switch, I'd be embarrassed. You sent written agendas out to every property owner that kept those islands clear. And then a week ago, I get an email that said, oh, by the way, that's out. We're now including your islands, but you didn't send certified letters to all of the property owners. You just slipped it under the door. And for that reason, when we wrote our protest letter that says, no, we don't want to be annexed, we had a specific point on the letter that said, we don't want you to waive protest hearings. It was us. Because you've broken our trust, you've broken our faith by doing agenda changes like this. This room would be full of all the property owners if they all knew that the agenda included islands A and B. I ask you, personally, you're not ready for Village 5. I don't want to be annexed, but you need to rethink this. Make it transparent, because right now it stinks. Thank you.
Can I just ask a point of clarification? You're on
Yes.
Nicholas Avenue. You're in Island B or A?
Or A.
I'm on the island that goes right down Nicholas Road.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And I have the two parcels. One's 9 acres, the other's 71 acres. And you keep saying that bigger parcel is nothing.
Thank you
It's
for the
mine.
clarification. I just wanted to make sure I had the right property in my maps. Thank you for your comments. Are there others who would like to comment today?
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, my name's Gene Thorpe. I'm sorry, that sounds very loud to me. I live at 2781 Heatherbrook Lane with my wife Sherry. We've lived on our property as of January 1 of 2025, 40 years. We're neighbors with the Shivers. We'd like to object to the action that I guess was taken by LAFCO to include the islands A and B. So we'll amend our letter because we didn't think they were going to be in play tonight, and we would like to make sure that the homeowners in the area have proper notice. As stated in our previous letter, we would not like to be annexed in at this time. We'd like to stay in Island B. We'd like to continue to reserve the right to farm our property if we want to. And it is the county's policy to preserve, protect, encourage the development and improvement of agricultural land and for the production of food and agricultural products. We don't want any additional taxes, bonds, or any of that type of thing at this time. And so we just want to go on record for that. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you for being here today and presenting your comments.
Good evening. I'm Lee McDaniel, 3761 Nicholas Road. You just heard from my wife. To clarify, we're part of Island A, the Rockville Lane community, excuse me. We wrote a very strong protest letter here requesting that these two islands still remain outside of annexation, remain in the unincorporated area of Placer County. And we also, the thrust of this letter was against the city of Lincoln in trying to push these items forward based, and I think I owe an apology to the city of Lincoln, who is standing up here defending the islands. And so I will now look at LAFCO as stated by the manager pro tem. There's a technicality here regarding surrounded areas. It really needs to be addressed and worked out to keep these two islands outside of corporation. As said, the people have spoken. They do not want to be part of this now. We're all farming. Part of your strategic goals in your own LAFCO plan is to protect prime agricultural land. This is an opportunity to maintain those strategic goals. And so I would ask that your action would be to deny the resolution 2024-02 as written that incorporates these islands and come up with a different resolution excluding these islands, and or take the other action, which would be to reject this project entirely and come up with a new plan.
Thank you
very much.
Thanks for the clarifications as well. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Would you mind if I made a clarification?
Sure.
So I just want to make sure that LAFCO has not taken action. I heard that from the prior speaker, and also page 12 of your packet does include the necessary findings to approve alternative one should you choose not to approve staff recommendation. So the findings are there, and so you would not disregard the resolution that's before you completely. You would simply replace section 4 of the resolution with that finding from page 11.
Correct. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Are there other members of the public? Don't be shy. We don't bite. Well, maybe, but.
Tony Frazier with Frazier Design Group, working on several projects with M5. On behalf of those projects and the many years of working on this Village 5, I was shocked to see that we're backtracking, including additional land that was agreed to be removed. So I really, really encourage you to vote on alternative 1 just so we can move forward. A lot of people spend a lot of time and money, and also the trust of the people that they thought we're moving forward without them, and here we're backtracking. So I appreciate you if you consider alternative 1.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Liddell. I'm the Director of Facilities for the Western Placer Unified School District. I will make mine short, being Nita stole half my thunder of what I was going to say. But as far as the number of schools within the plan and the benefits of alleviating some of the enrollment pressure that we currently have at our existing schools. So overall, the Village 5 plan required 3 new elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 new high school. Within the proposed annexation, there are 3 schools, so 2 elementary and 1 middle school site designated. However, part of what's getting excluded right now is where the high school site is currently designated. So I just did want to say that Richland Communities has, given that fact, we're already negotiating on where we could move that designated high school site within the annexed areas, as well as the possibility of moving up the timing of at least one of the elementary schools to deal with the enrollment from the new homes. In addition, schools are not cheap right now. Every month, construction costs go up. So with that said, I did want to, and I said this last time, Richland Communities came to us early to negotiate a school facilities mitigation agreement to ensure that we have the financing to build the required school. So I want to thank them in that regard. That's not always the case. They've always been cooperative. So far, we've had really good negotiations on this village plan, and hope to continue that relationship. So thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to have to start calling you out by name if you don't.
Trust me, I wasn't bored. Phil Rodriguez with the Lewis Group of Companies. We are the major dominant landowner within the Village 7 specific plan, which is just to the southeast of Village 5, this proposed annexation area. And in this quasi area, there's a component of the Village 7 specific plan that is in this Island B. And so I just wanted to point out that the full intent of the city approving the 2010 Village 7 specific plan and our annexation of our 515 acres of that 700 acre specific plan in 2014 that was approved by LAFCO was the intent that we would be annexing more portions, the remaining portions of the specific plan when it was ready, when owners were ready, basically. But, you know, and I want to first point out, I should make sure I'm clear on this, we are a big proponent of this application for annexation with Richland's property and the city's annexation proposal without the islands. Clearly leave folks out that want to be left alone. That's what we did when we annexed our portion of the Village 7 specific plan. However, when, you know, I've read the staff report and we get into certain sections of it, there's some language that is ambiguous, and it seems to be it's not telling the entire story. And the reason why I'm here is we will be coming forward with an annexation in the future. You know, I can't say it's next week, I can't say it's next month or next year, but eventually we will be coming forward with components of the specific plan to annex. And there's some language in attachment I that specifically states, and it's confusing, that islands cannot be further fragmented. So if, you know, hopefully all of you vote to approve this annexation without islands, it implies that when we move forward with our annexation of perhaps the balance of our specific plan, that we're fragmenting that island. Well, I'm not sure that that's the reality, that we can't do that, and that LAFCO would not allow that. I've discussed this with the city, I think they agree as well, but I want to make it a point to clear the air here, or perhaps you can ask the executive director to clear that up and explain, in her opinion, why islands cannot be further fragmented, because we believe we will be implementing the specific plan, and I'm not bringing everyone else in the island with me to the annexation component. So just want to clear the air with that, and I would encourage you to inquire about that and clear this up, because we will be before you. And I don't want anyone to just raise their hand and say, you're not bringing the entire island with you. So we just want clarity.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your comments today. And we'll get back to questions at the end. We'll summarize. Thanks.
Madam Chair, members of the commission, Brian Cooley, Richland Communities. I just wanted to echo some of Phil's comments earlier. We are the largest landowner in the Village 5A area. We've been at this since 1999, working with the city of Lincoln since 2011 on the specific plan. So it's been a long journey to get to this point here tonight. I was in the room last September when the chambers were a lot more packed than they are tonight. Majority of those folks were in Islands A and Islands B that expressing their desire not to be annexed to the city of Lincoln. That we went to the protest process last December, and we quickly sat down with the city and dusted off our wounds and tried to come up with a boundary that achieved two things. One, really being respectful of all the landowners and registered voters. There's also renters that also protested, but residents in the both Islands A and Island B that did not want to be included in the city of Lincoln at this time. That's where the boundary that you have before you came about. The second priority was acknowledging that the city of Lincoln needed to grow its sales tax base. And the two areas up by Nicholas Road, by the future interchange, and by the area a little bit to the west of Nelson Lane are the growth areas for the city of Lincoln to grow that sales tax base. And so we've been committed to helping them to do that to the extent that we've spent a couple $1 million at risk on infrastructure design, and we are about a day or two away from submitting the first backbone improvement plans to the city of Lincoln for $100 million upfront infrastructure design to, in short term, activate that sales tax commercial part of the plan as the residential units come online. So I just wanted to kind of clarify that. And again, I know there's a lot of folks in the audience here tonight that a bit of a misunderstanding is in reading the staff report, thinking that they were going to be forced into the annexation boundary by the city of Lincoln or other landowners. That's not the case. All the landowners that are in the annexation boundary tonight are all supportive of this application moving forward. There's a lot of letters on record to support that. And I just want to say too, we have been at this a long time. I appreciate the school district here speaking this evening. We have executed a school mitigation agreement. We also acknowledge that was done several years ago. We're probably going to need to update that. And this infrastructure that I speak of is going to activate those school sites to not only provide placement for students that are generated out of Village 5, but some of the students that come out of Lincoln proper today to alleviate some of that overcrowding. So we're anxious to get moving. We would really appreciate your support of alternative number 1 and allow us to begin work. So with that, we'll have any questions. And some of our design and engineering team is here if there's any specific detailed questions, and we appreciate your patience and consideration this evening. So,
Thank you. Thank you very much for your comments. Going once, going.
Good afternoon, Albert Schreiber, Village 7, Village 5, formerly Sub B. I think Island B is what I'm in. I think that's all the letters. First, I'd like to make perfectly clear, as I have for the last 10 years or whatever we've been working on this, is that we're all in favor of Richland doing whatever they want on their property. Just the same as I would hope they would be in favor of me doing whatever I want to do or any of my other neighbors want to do on their property. So that being said, I'm not opposed to Richland doing what they want on their property. I've always said, though, leave everybody else alone. And so, there's some things I'd like to clarify while I got my 2 minutes left. One is, if you go forward and you delete the islands, then I would like to be on record with your attorney for a protest for Island B. You got it for Island A, I'm gonna throw it down for Island B, because I want the islands to stay. And there's, there's been some discussion tonight about the agenda and the staff report, and I was, as soon as I was made aware of this, I contacted Ms. McIntyre with a bunch of questions, and she clarified stuff. I think the staff report and the agenda could have been written better. That's my opinion. I think if Ms. McIntyre had not included the deletion of the islands, she wouldn't have been doing her job. That's also my opinion. She seems to be taking some heat for it. I understand why it's there. I don't like it. I don't agree with it, but I understand it. The other thing I'd like just try to squeeze in my last minute is at the October 9th LAFCO meeting, Mr. Cooley got up here in response to Ms. Landon's question about the septics and hooking up, to city utilities and water, wells, all that stuff. He made it very clear that that's not how it worked. Nobody was gonna have to hook up to that, okay? When I read the staff reports, around 262, page 262, give or take, it pretty much, to me, says, no, you're gonna have to hook up. So there seems to be a disconnect as to what's in the staff report and what's, you know, being said here. So I wanna circle back to my original thing, is leave everybody alone. If you're gonna leave the islands, then leave everybody in the island alone. And that includes what Mr. Rodriguez mentioned, was breaking up the islands. I wish I had more time to explain, but I agree with Mr. Cooley and I agree with Mr. Rodriguez, which basically leave everybody in the island alone.
Thank you for your comments. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Tejman. I live on 4090 Nicholas Road. That's between the airport and the new highway. I'm a former Yuba City Councilman and a former LAFCO chair from Sutter County. And I understand why the staff would, you know, nobody wants these islands, but sometimes that's what the reality is, that you have to live with it. And when nothing else works, I think even in the codes it says that you can go ahead and then move forward with the islands. You know, and the people have spoken. They don't want to be part of we as elected sometimes, and as department head and so forth with infrastructure, we want it all one, nice boundaries. It's easier to serve with law. You know, there's going to be this city police or the fire or the sheriff. I mean, it becomes a challenge. We saw that in Sutter County with, so nobody likes islands, but sometimes you do have to live with the reality. I think Richland community is doing a great job. I think we're losing a lot of tax dollars. The city of Lincoln being right there at Nelson and 65, I think it'd be great moving forward with their project. And you know, property rights are a big thing in America, and you know, they want to develop their property, and the people in the islands don't. They want to live that way, the lifestyle that they like. So I think we could satisfy everyone and finally move forward instead of going back and forth and every few years. You know, this has been long enough. It'd be nice to see this project and have some retail in our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. And thanks for your service on a LAFCO commission. Are there others who would like to address the commission? Amy.
Thank you very much. My name is Byron Chapman. I live in Lincoln. I don't live in the facilities in the areas looking at annexation. Simply want to start out with, I think maybe from a humanistic standpoint, not necessarily a policy. If you look at the group of people that are out there and that are trying to be annexed into the area, the first thing came to mind when I got involved in this project was, who came first? It's as simple as that. Who came first? Taking that a step further, the developers do buy property. People do sell property. I think because of the magnitude of what the annexation is doing, I think is really the driving force here of the whole process of how it's just ballooning out of control. In the event that the two islands are in there, and I was reading something through the on page 261, just a paragraph of it basically says, under Placer County Ordinance Chapter 13, Public Services, properties within 300 feet of an available sewer connection are required to connect to the public system if their septic tank falls, provided a legal accessible connection available, which is in figure 1. My point to that is this: if it goes in that direction, why would the owners of the properties that are there, and instead of that 300 being against them? And my point is that let's jump ahead in the future and simply say, you know where the property lines are. Whoever's properties that are annexed in the islands, and there's a 300-foot buffer, but that 300-foot buffer is on the side of the developer. So the developer really has an opportunity to trigger those septic tanks and water simply by building something within that 300-foot property. I tried to find that, but I couldn't find anything different. If anything, it would be that if anyone, the easiest way to solve that is put in a buffer, trees, plants, anything other. Then it doesn't become a trigger for the people that own the properties, and it takes care of the other as well. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Are there others in the room before I go to people online? Is there anyone else in the room that would like to address the commission? Going once? Going twice? Okay, then we'll go online. If you're online and would like to provide comments, please raise your hand. Looks like we have 38 individuals online listening in. Cheryl, can you unmute and provide your comments?
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. My name's Cheryl Musinich. I'm at 510 Nelson Lane, right across from the Shrivers. Hi, Brian, and everybody there. I think, one question I had, and I think everybody's brought up some really valid points. Why are we holding the meetings all the way up in Auburn? Do we have to, or is that possible that we can start holding the meetings in Lincoln, or is there a reason for that?
Go ahead and make the rest of your comments, and then we'll answer questions at the end.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
So the rest of my comments are, obviously, we're all concerned. We'd like to have the same lifestyle. This gentleman that you brought up, the sewer. We like our septic systems. We like our wells. We want to kind of stay where we are. And like Al said, Brian and Richland, you guys go ahead and do what you want on your property. That's not a problem. Just leave us alone. And I think that's really, I just wanted to reinforce the same things that were happening, and then ask that a question, that additional question. And that's about it. I wanted to keep it brief.
Thank you, Cheryl. Appreciate your comments. The rest of you online, is there anyone else who would like to address the commission? Please raise your hand and unmute. Connie, would you unmute and provide your comments?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Connie Schreiber, Moore Road. I believe I'm in Island B. I just wanted a little bit of clarification, because as I was reading some of the staff report, it sounded to me like once the islands are formed, if this annexation happens per number 1, once the island is formed, that in the future, if any parcel in the island or partial parcel in the island, or somebody wanted to annex their property into the city, essentially making the island smaller, and that's assuming then they're not in the middle of the island, that they're on the outer edge of the island. It sounded like they couldn't then do that. So I just would like some clarification if that's the case, because we want Richland to be able to do what they want with their property, but we and our neighbors want to be able to do with what we want with our property. I mean, nobody's guaranteed tomorrow, and life happens. And so, we want to know if we're going to be locked into an island for the rest of our lives and for every generation thereafter, or if we annex, we're going to have to force neighbors in, which nobody wants to be forced into doing anything with their property. So I'd just like some clarification on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. Appreciate your comments. Is there anyone else online who would like to comment to the commission? Okay, I'm not seeing any other hands go up. I'm going to give it one more shot. If any of you online would like to address the commission, please raise your hand. I can't scroll to the bottom, so you're telling me. Okay, so we're seeing no further. So one last time for here in the room. Okay, then we're going to close the public comment period now on the hearing. I have been asked for a quick bio break. So if you don't mind, we'll take a quick 5-minute break and then we'll come back and answer questions.
Amy, scrolling to where.
Michelle? Michelle and Dana. Okay, before it gets too late in the night, we're going to say good evening. We're back from our quick break. I hate to use that hammer, Sean. Yeah. Don't hold us up. Okay. So we're going to go back through a few of the issues that were raised. In particular, can we talk about attachment I? This is the ambiguous language related to sewer, I believe.
Sorry, I think my mic was on or off. So would you like me to tackle the sewer question first? I think there's two, and they're a little, they're in the same general area, but the sewer, or the wastewater discussion starts on page 261, but the concern, I believe, is on page 262, where the county, we quote the county ordinance, which provides the exceptions to the mandatory sewer connections, specifically number 1, if no existing development is present, connection is not required unless development occurs. Oh, that's the wrong map, but we do have maps on page 263 of your packet, which identifies some areas that, or I'm sorry, some properties that are affected by the 300-foot. Earlier this evening, you heard Commissioner Landon discuss that the county may be changing their ordinance. Again, it is a county ordinance, not LAFCO ordinance, which is why we coded the county. So they may be changing that requirement to the 200-foot, but how it stands today with the 300-foot is the scenario that I'll have Cassandra.
Well, and I did talk to County Environmental Health this afternoon, and all of these exceptions are exceptions to that rule. We are not going to stand in the way of a person developing their property in unincorporated Placer County in these situations. So I think that's very clear. So exception 1, 2, or 3 can be.
Okay, yeah, I just, since it is not our ordinance, we are
Right.
simply quoting, not to say we're enforcing the county's ordinance.
Right.
So when we looked at the way the language is written, again, without us being able to make the exception, with the Board of Supervisors being the body that could make the exception, we just have to read it as is.
Okay. So I think there was still some confusion on that. Cassandra, do you want to address that?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can help kind of break it down a little bit. So essentially, if you are in a yellow parcel and your septic system were to fail, so this doesn't apply unless you have a total failure where you would have to reinstall a new system completely. So repairs are not subject to this. But if you have to install a new system, and at that time, there is an existing sewer line within 300 feet of your property, then at that time, the county department would ask you to connect to city services unless you meet one of 3 exceptions, and then they would determine whether you could reinstall a new septic system and receive a new permit.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in with the government code.
Yeah.
So we're gonna tag team here. So because, let's say you went with alternative 1 and not with staff recommendation, so you do in fact have an island, and there is a total failure, as Cassandra said, then you use 56133, which allows the commission to provide, allows the city to provide the service because there's a health and safety issue. And to an existing health and safety issue, right, so you have that exception. Okay, carry on. No, the second scenario is if you have an undeveloped and there is no health and safety. Go ahead.
Yes, if you go to develop a property that is a new property and there's no existing systems, you need to connect, or you would need to connect rather than opt for a septic system unless you meet one of those exceptions or annex it to the city of Lincoln.
What?
And I want to be clear, then we should have invited county health here, because they assured me that if somebody's system fails, they can rebuild it on their site. They can find a suitable site. They're going to allow that. They're going to allow people to use septic and unincorporated placer.
Right, we're not disputing that. I'm
Okay.
saying that, because that's existing development.
No, even for new development, I confirmed this today because of the issue we talked about last night, that they would prefer people connect, but they are not going to force people to connect because they can't force an annexation. So we as the county currently, our environmental health would not require that.
I think they submitted a letter to us.
Yes, they did, just reinforcing what the ordinance states, but I do want to point out that number 3 of the exceptions does kind of have a catch-all, right? So
Right.
properties without majority support or without access to the sewer system will continue to rely on septic systems. If the county were to want to, they could enact that exception to allow the use of septic.
Right,
So-
and that's how we're doing it now. I can just assure you that that is
Right.
what is occurring now.
So the letter from the public health is on page 310, so anyway, that's where we got that. Okay, and then the other issue was the breaking up an island. So as you can, is this this map. So it depends, as all LAFCO. If you have an island within an island within an island, and there's certainly an opportunity, say, if there's someone in the middle. Again, we are going with the scenario where you have, you've created an island, you as the commission, or you've created 2 islands. And if you take a look at that map, there are areas, parcels in between that could be then, if they wanted to annex. It's gray. Is that something that the commission could do? Again, an island within an island, because now you're breaking up. The other scenario, again, 56375.3, which came out of AB 1555 from 1999, removes the streamlined provision for an island annexation. I think we had another project which is completely surrounded, an island that was not, was created well before 2015, where there's no protest provision. They don't have a vote. So that would be removed. Now, if you have other scenarios, again, it depends, that where maybe LAFCO could allow it, but there are some, there's vagueness when you have an island within an island within an island. Now, are you taking half an island and leaving it greater than 150 acres? Is that allowed? Perhaps. It depends. So I think there's some vagueness because of those different scenarios. We don't know until we have an application in front of us.
Great, and I can read our policy that discourages these islands.
Right.
But says, that we're gonna do whatever we can to help facilitate this, so.
Right, and so it just depends. I'm sorry, Commissioner.
It's, as I understand philosophically, all of the LAFCO stuff, it's up to the commission to decide whether something is logical. So we can postulate small islands, big islands, some bigger than a pot, but you don't know until you have the issue. But it is within the purview for the commission to allow it if it's logical and meets the rest of the reasonable cases. Just exactly like the alternate for islands. So there aren't, the law is hard and fast, except it's got that off-ramp.
Right. Any further clarification, commissioners, on that item?
Not for me, I'm comfortable.
Okay, okay. I think we had a comment on the meetings in Auburn. I just wanted to remind the caller that we are a commission that represents the entire county. We come from all over the county for our meetings, and we have always held them, as far as I know, in this location. I don't know if there's anything further to be said, but certainly as with Lincoln as the applicant, to hold it in Lincoln in the city council would have been somewhat confusing to the public, furthering the dialogue that the applicant wanted something that the commission, we are an independent body, so that is why.
And you get to drive from Tahoe.
Yes. Or stay down. Were there other clarifications that staff heard that you wanted to make, Cassandra or Michelle, on this? Okay, they didn't. I wanted to go back to the one of the first commenters and just again remind the board that our commission policy says very clearly that we do not want islands, right? That is not our preference. Islands are not easy to work with. It's much better for us to avoid that. And so I want to support our staff in that from a technical standpoint, they are recommending what is consistent with the commission adopted policies as they stand today and is consistent with LAFCO law and why LAFCOs were formed. Now, taking off her technical responsibilities then becomes our policy discussion, how we hear your concerns about your needs and desires and how we make our final decisions. So I just want to make sure that there was no intent on her part to create a situation other than to uphold the policies that our board has adopted and continues to live by. So I appreciate the concern and the confusion it has created. But that is why she's the executive officer and why we are the commissioners elected in our various capacities. So with that, let's open dialogue on, and
before,
yes.
I'm the type of person that likes simple things and uncomplicated decisions. Therefore, I'd like to make things simple so that we can have substantive discussion, and that bucket is focused on and efficient in solving this issue today. The discussions and deliberations we have before us today is the issue of whether or not we are to approve the annexation of Village 5A as presented by the City of Lincoln. The item that we'll be discussing and ultimately approving or disapproving is Resolution 2410. In order to facilitate and focus the discussion, I will move that we approve this resolution by using alternative 1 as was suggested in the staff report. This supports the annexation as presented by the city proponent and making the findings that only the commission can make. The executive officer or agency staff cannot make these findings because, according to policy, it is policy decision and the findings must be made by the commission. If the commission can't make these findings, history has shown that the property in these islands, if it's included in an annexation, the vote's going to fail. Protest vote. In my opinion, if we can't approve the findings that justify having islands not including people and that don't want to be included in the city, we have to vote no on Village 5, which I think is what our assistant city manager said taking my thunder. If there is no annexation, there is a significant impact to the community of Lincoln and to the community of Placer County. So we have the focus. I hereby move adoption of Resolution 2410 with this change. Replace Section 4 in its entirety with the following. Based on the totality of the record, the Commission finds that the application of restrictions in CG Section 56744 to the proposal will be detrimental to the orderly development of the community, and that these areas will be enclosed by annexation. Islands A and Island B, the parcels which are identified in Exhibit 3 and 4 attached. So they are located such that they cannot reasonably be annexed to another city or incorporated as a new city. The two findings are detrimental to the community, the goals of the community, and the fact is that they cannot be formed as a new city or be annexed by another city. So that's my motion. I'd like a second, so then we can start discussing it.
I would like to second it, but I do have comments.
Well, I heard a second, and then proceed with your comments.
Okay, thank you. Well, I thank you, Cindy, for, first of all, I really echo what you said about staff's recommendation. I understand why that recommendation was in there, and I think that was Michelle's role as executive director to lay out what our policies call for, but I do think it is incumbent upon us to make the policy calls, and so I appreciated your comments as well, Dan. I think in this case, you know, none of us want the islands, but they are strategically located where they can still be served efficiently by county services without an immediate need for city services. And you know, I think that annexation will ultimately support a phased approach to urban expansion. And I think it really, most importantly, as Councilmember Andriotta stated, you know, we really want to respect the existing community and their fabric and what they desire for their personal property rights. And I think this does that. And while I'm not a fan, again, of having multiple islands, I think there is an opportunity in the future for those islands to be reevaluated and for property owners to come forward. And I know there already are a few that have expressed interest in being annexed in the future that are currently in the islands. And so I will, as I said, second Commissioner Carlskin's motion, and those are my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Landon, Supervisor Landon. Other comments? Commissioner Rohan.
I concur with what I've heard from the other commissioners.
Hi. So I think it's interesting when you look at our strategic plan and what we were thinking about, and everyone's probably thinking, wow, that woman is sure talking a lot tonight. She's not even voting on this. But I just think it's really important for us to understand, right, this is a state legislature piece, but we're local LAFCOs. And the reason why we're local is because we understand our community best, right? And so I think when we think about this, right, an island, there's so many things that goes into it. And I, like everybody up here, and even when I interviewed for this position, I was like, I'm all about the MSRs and I don't like islands. That being said, we're also responsible for orderly development of community. And I don't understand how in a world where there's orderly development of community, but then we're forcing people to be in a community that they don't want to be in. And that's why I really feel that the proposal set forth by the city of Lincoln is the best one for us to, well, for you all to consider, because I'm not voting on it, but yes.
Thank you. Jenny?
I actually agree with a lot of the comments that have been made, and I do think that they have a general plan, and that's been in the works for a long time. But I also believe in property rights for owners, and so I am in agreement with all the comments that have been made.
Thank you. Commissioner Alpine and Commissioner Friedman, would you like to make a comment?
I'm ready to vote.
I have a comment, Josh, unless you...
No, I don't have any comments.
Well, there you go. I want to thank the process. And Ms. Landon, thank you for clarifying staff's role in this, because I do understand what past LAFCO policy has been. I also want to thank the public for showing up for this, because this has been a huge packet for me as the new guide to read and understand. And there's been a lot of public process, it seems like, and a lot of public comment on what property owners want for their property. And I appreciate that we can honor that with this. And I want to thank everybody involved for their input, their clarity, and their thoughtfulness in this process. It's been a long one, I can tell. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Friedman. Any other closing comments? Then I'll offer mine in that sometimes public policy, we often say it's, how the sausage is made. It's not always pretty. But what's most important is that the public we are all serving is well aware of what's happening. And there is no doubt in my mind that through this entire process, we've all learned as we've gone about annexations, islands, and we've tackled some tough issues. But everybody is well aware, I think, in both of the islands especially, and from the hearings we had previously, and to what actions we're taking today. So I feel very confident that the decisions that we're about to vote on have been well vetted, well discussed in the communities, that people are as understanding as they can be about an ever-changing world and government rules and regs. There's, none of us can foresee what else will come down upon us, but at the local level, our job is to listen to our public and to serve you in the best way possible. So I feel comfortable with the motion, and unless there's further comment, Mr. Walker or Ms. McIntyre, were there any further comments on the motion?
Legal counsel.
The only issue I would ask Michelle to address is whether, as of this time, there have been any objections to the approval as on the table now, such that the commission could not waive protest proceedings?
Thank you. So just to clarify, we have not received protests from those within the proposal area. That means the islands, right, are excluded. So all the protests that we received are outside of the proposal area. So at this time, you may waive the protest proceeding. We did find 19 registered voters, and I can't remember the number of property owners, but certainly it is inhabited. But we noticed it to allow the commission to waive the protest proceedings.
And as a point for Mr. Walker, would you like that in a separate motion after we vote on the?
Actually, I just wanted the record to clarify that. The resolution as written now addresses that, so no adjustment to the motion is needed.
Thank you. Okay. So we have a motion on the table, and Amy, I'm going to ask you to call the roll.
All right. Commissioner Alpine?
Yes.
Commissioner Carlskin?
Yeah.
Commissioner Landon?
Yes.
Commissioner Rohan?
Yes.
Commissioner Friedman?
Yes.
Commissioner Nisely?
Yes.
And Chair Gustafson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
The motion passes. Thank you. And thank you all for being here tonight and for your valuable input throughout this process. It really does mean a lot to us when we actually get to meet and see the people we serve. So thank you very much. That concludes item number 5. And we will move now to item 6 on our agenda. This is our business items, of which we have one, which is our executive officer's report.
Thank you, Chair. Do you mind just giving me 30 seconds? So it's difficult for me to talk over people. Thank you.
Okay. We'll take a quick break before we start that.
Thank you. I apologize. I don't have a very loud voice. My children would disagree, of course. So for our next meeting, I just wanted to give you a brief update. We do have the South Placer Fire Protection District, and what's noted there at the end, their request to extend its power to provide ambulance services to include the entirety of its jurisdictional boundary. That will be on our next regular meeting, as well as a policy amendment to our fee and indemnification agreement, because the state law has changed and therefore we need to change our policy. State law will be effective January 1st of 2025, so our policy we're requesting to be effective 2025, just in conformance. The other item that is on there is a sewer connection for the South Placer Municipal Utility District. It is, they have a failed septic system, and so it is an emergency situation. So they will be coming on board. So that is December 11th. We did have other items on that agenda, but they have fallen off to our January meeting. So our January meeting is the 8th. We have a number of items. We'll have the draft service review for the city of Rocklin. We have the final service review for the city of Roseville. We have the draft service review for the South Placer Municipal Utility District. And then we have a draft service review for the fire districts. So,
and all of those in January.
All of those in January. Again, we had some of those items were scheduled for December, and so we thought there was a breakup. I may be requesting, as it gets closer to January, to request a second meeting in January, or later in the month, and perhaps.
Go ahead and have 4 of them.
Yeah.
Thanks for volunteering us, Dan.
But
teamwork, I can see that. Leave us with that gift. Okay.
But I want to wait until we're closer to our January date before I contact the chair, just because you never know with all of these different projects where everyone will be, especially with the holidays in between. So, so that's my report. If you have any questions, please let me know. We will be publishing the December 11th meeting this Friday. So with the South Placer Fire, the South Placer Sewer connection, and again, that fee and indemnification agreement policy.
Great, thank you. Okay, that concludes any questions on the business report, on our executive officer's report?
I would just say, please, if, I know that you want to check with the chairs and figure out where things are, but I think it really is in the best interest of all those individual things for us to be able to have as much time with each of them to be able to focus on that, but I also realize you have to get things done too. So I certainly would be one for having multiple meetings in January, just to give the most attention to all of them.
But not 4.
But not 4.
No.
Maybe 1.5. No, I'm just kidding.
Be split to, 2 and 2, right? Let's, I will contact Chair Gustafson right before the meeting. Not right before the meeting, but closer to the meeting.
Okay, great. All right, then we'll move on to commissioner comments. Are there any comments? Yes, Jenny.
This is my last LAFCO meeting, and I just wanted to say it's been a pleasure to work with all of you, and it's been a pleasure to work with you, Michelle. And answering all my questions and really helping me learn. And I'll be watching. I'll actually be coming to the next one, maybe for public comment, but I will be watching, and I really do appreciate all of you for taking time to do this. It's a really important commission, so thank you.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you for your service. You have been at more meetings than some of our regular commissioners. You have really dedicated a lot of time and energy. I wasn't talking about you, Josh. But I really want to thank you for that, yes.
I also want to, it's been an honor, actually, to serve the short time that I have on LAFCO. Learned a lot. But more than that, I have an appreciation of local governments that is so tied to state law, specific bit by bit requirements, how hard it is to walk that road with people that you live with, and you want to respect their property rights.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be a kind of a constant thing, and it's a tough rope to balance on. So the commission would be commended. Also, I think the commission is really straightforward and pretty honest and truthful as a bunch of politicians. So, thank you.
Any other commissioner comments?
I just wanted to express my appreciation for the opportunity to work with both of you, and thank you for your involvement in the strategic plan and the discussion on policies. Tonight, we had a lot of discussion on policies, and it reminded me of my motivation in us getting into them and having time to think them through and what they all mean when they get applied in the real world.
Correct. Absolutely. Commissioner Landon, Alpine, or Friedman, did you have any closing comments?
I wanted to say thank you so much to Dan and Jenny, and I wanted to echo that I really appreciate both of you as well. And Dan, I think I've said goodbye to you like 5 times now because of the different committees we're on. So anyways, thank you both. I just really appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dan and Jenny, I would just like to say things like everybody else said. It was a pleasure working with both of you, and I look forward to working with you and your next endeavors. I'm sure our paths will be crossing. Both of you are very involved in your communities, whether you are in the elected or volunteer positions. I think it was a real pleasure working with you on LAFCO and just in other commissions over the years, and I wish you both the best and look forward to working with you in the future.
So well said. Okay, with that, I'll look for a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Our next commission meeting is next Wednesday, right here in this room at 4 p.m. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.